Yeah, great. So, ever since I came of age in the ultimate glitz palace, Studio 54, clubs have been my safest haven, my most seductive home base. They're sparkly, eye-popping, and accepting. Once you get in, none of us was loved enough as children, but with each other, we're validated and we instantly sprout into fabulousness. In Clubland, no one says anything bad about your outfit. They don't even notice your outfit, as they're too busy swinging from a chandelier and showing off their own. I'm Michael Musto, longtime nightlife and entertainment columnist. Well, in the 70s, I already was at the best parties. One of my first nightclubs was Studio 54, which was the ultimate disco of the 70s. I had done a few pieces for the Village Voice already. They liked what I had done. So I started at the top of nightlife. I mean, that was an extraordinary way to begin my nightlife career. And I started wearing incredible outfits. So I'm a person of different contradictions. I'm terribly shy, and yet I go into a crowd every night of party, and I dress in a feathered headdress. Yeah, well, people think, oh, now is the only time that it's okay to be gay. Wrong. In the 70s, it was the first time where it was okay to be gay because this was after Stonewall. In 1969, Stonewall was the legendary riots at the Stonewall Tavern in the Village, where the gay clientele, LGBTQ, finally fought back against the cops during their umpteenth ultimate raid. And the queers just said, we're fighting back, and it changed everything. It mobilized the queer community. We owe so much to the Stonewall generation. They paved the way for us. But I also feel some of today's, millennials owe a lot to my generation. I was openly gay at a time when it wasn't that cool to be openly gay in the 80s. Brant Mewborn was my editor at After Dark magazine. Introduced me to Nelson Sullivan, and I was captivated. Nelson was a Southern gentleman. He was very charming. He was very droll. He kind of smoked pot. He seemed very calm, though he was hiding certain jitters and certain neuroses, which I also loved.
Mary Kay called me up at work and asked me to go to her party. And we'll see how it goes, you know? Like, you can't go. You can't go.
It turned out he was a very talented documentarian. He was a videographer who would carry this handheld camera, very clunky, and it would get him entree into nightclubs and parties. Nowadays, they would say, no video, no video. Back then, they were thrilled because there was no documentation. This is before internet, before YouTube, before cell phones. So the nightclub crowd, like myself, was very happy to welcome Nelson and say, oh, shoot us being fabulous and looking amazing.
Leave no trace. Hide your face. Temptation. Temptation.
And that's kind of the beauty of what he shot, is that we were not self-conscious on camera. We were not thinking, people are gonna see this, so let me just be my best. We were just doing it for each other. He would show up always with the camera, never without the camera. And I think it was a way for him to combat his own shyness. But with the camera, everybody, oh, hey, Nelson, RuPaul, La Homa, Larry T, we're all loving having Nelson around. Michael, Alig, Christina, of course I miss Nelson. There's nobody like him. He was a groundbreaker, and he was always welcoming. Whatever he was doing, he invited me along.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Good evening. The disease has already claimed more victims than Legionnaire's disease and toxic shock syndrome combined. Surprisingly few people are familiar with the Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, or the acronym by which it's frequently identified, AIDS.
Discovered more than 2 years ago, it was sometimes called the gay plague. That's because virtually all of the victims were homosexual, and many of them wound up with a rare and often deadly form of cancer called Kaposi's sarcoma.
We lost so many people. It got to a point when I had to pick cards on my Rolodex like every day. It was like, did you hear who has it? Oh yeah, and his boyfriend has it. Did you hear who else have it? And it was overwhelming, because we were dealing not only with the grief, but with the rage that President Reagan wasn't doing anything about it. He wasn't even mentioning AIDS. I was going back and forth between nightclubs and ACT UP activist rallies, but most of the people were just living in a bubble or trying to escape at night, just for a few hours. It's a little bit head in the sand. It was a little bit denial because it was so horrible that if you really admitted what was going on, it would be hard to carry on.
Michael Musto, you're the journalist there. You have chronicled the nightlife for many years for the Village Voice. Has the nightlife here in town been rejuvenated by this outrageousness?
Yeah, well, a few years ago when AIDS first made its impact, Nels came on the scene. It was very conservative, very sterile. People dressed in black and posed and flaunted their gold cards, and they were boring. And then along came this new crop of people, thanks to the club kids.
Well, it seemed like the club scene was over. Andy Warhol had died. My whole scene of celebutants, that was over. And along comes Michael Alig, who's like an explosion of energy. And he has this whole parade, a conga line of kids behind him all going, Michael, Michael, Michael. And I took part in it, I have to admit. From the beginning, I wrote mixed things about him. I wrote what was good about his energy and what was a little creepy about the devilish side. And Michael Alig never cared. He did not care what I wrote at all, as long as I mentioned his name. He just wanted publicity. That was the first clue that something was wrong.
He was one of those copycats that we hate, and so we killed him. I killed Angel, and that's the kind of thing that gets me in trouble.
Of course, there's a dark side to the Glitter Dome. My biggest blind item in 1996 detailed the Drano injections, pillow, and the river tossing of drug dealer Angel Melendez's body. Never did I pray so hard for an item of mine to not be true, but it was sadly on the money. The killers, Michael Alig and his roommate Freeze, were eventually incarcerated and club life died, further clobbered by Mayor Rudy Giuliani's campaign to turn New York into an overpriced Disneyland. It took years and lots of tacky people springing for bottle service before it came back, but it did, despite constant raids and regulations geared to make New York safe for real estate owners who used to go to clubs. What I liked about the scene was it provided a home for these queer kids. Some of them might not have been approved of by their parents, but here they had an accepting home and they could do different things like promoting or hostessing or DJing, make some money and feel part of a family. Unfortunately, it became like the Manson family. There are very few dance clubs in Manhattan anymore. The days of Studio 54 are long behind us. And in the 80s, we had Palladium, Limelight, Danceteria, Area. That's all gone. I still love going out to see a drag show, and I know all the drag queens, and they're all different, and they're all wonderful. But I'm glad I lived through the glory days. I'm glad I lived through the incredible dance clubs, the extraordinary shows and the productions that were put on, the glitz, the bohemia. It was all amazing to live through. I'm glad I was there, because I don't think it's ever coming back. I'm still here. I have to live for all the people that didn't make it. It's rough. They're like ghosts, still with me, but they're not with me anymore, and it's very hard. These were icons, these are Keith Haring and John Sex and people in every area of the creative arts. It's just wrong. In a way, it makes us survivors stronger.